Connor Hughes of SNY joins us right now. Connor, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing well, Craig. How are you guys, man?
Good.
What's going on,
What's that last story you were just working on? You got something good?
Yeah, a little juice, man. A little, I guess, sort of old town, crosstown friendly fire. Because Cordell Flott was headed back to the Giants, man. That was about done. I mean, the Giants were very, very confident that Flott was ready to remain in New York and continue his career, an ascending player, really.
Yeah.
Because this was a guy that kind of started to come into his own last season, and a lot of people around the NFL really, really high on him. In a last-second, last-ditch effort to get him to change his mind, the Tennessee Titans, an old friend, Robert Saleh, laid out everything they wanted to do with him, what they believed he could accomplish in their defense. It was the last full-court press to get him to change his mind. And guess what? He did, because Flott is not headed back to the Giants. He's headed to Tennessee along with Daniel Bellinger and Wan'Dale Robinson.
Do you think the Giants consider that a body blow or no?
Yeah, because their backup plan was Jamil Dean, and he just signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I talked to people, guys, earlier this morning, and the Giants were pretty convinced that this was happening. I mean, they were very, very confident that they were going to get Flott back, so much so that when I saw the Flott signing, I was like, oh, sweet, here we go. Right. And then when I saw it was the Titans, I was like, whoa, what happened here? So I reached out to some sources and found that out. So
let me ask you this.
Good for the Titans.
Based on your understanding of the Giants hierarchy now, for a team like the Titans, who had obviously a worse year than the Giants did, albeit a new head coach, new DC guys that we're very familiar with, who on the Giants, maybe it's not fair to say dropped the ball, but didn't dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure the Flott was a done deal? Does that now have to revert back to John Harbaugh, or can he say Shane didn't get it done?
No, I don't honestly think it's a case of that. I think it was just, look, if you've ever been in a room with Robert Saleh, Craig, I mean, and I think we both have. The guy's a good talker. I mean, he'll have me thinking that I can jump off a roof and fly. So, I think that was just is that it was a really good situation. And the thing about Robert is he knows how to coach defense, man, and he knows how to get the most of it. Look at DJ Reed. I mean, he was a guy that the Jets signed, and it was kind of like, okay, look, they got DJ Reed. And then he blossomed into this unbelievable cornerback. Look at what Sauce Gardner was able to accomplish with him, what so many of the players that were in San Francisco were able to accomplish. So this was just a really good situation where the Titans were able to convince him to come over, and now the Giants are going to have to pivot to some other opportunities there to fix their secondary, because suddenly cornerback is an issue for them.
And what about Illinois? That's the other Giant that we heard they are expecting a contract, a re-sign with. Right tackle really solidified that offensive line. So important, especially with the run game they're trying to produce. What do we know about Illuminor with the Giants?
They have been hoping, talk about full court press. The Giants have had they've pulled out every single stop that they can to get Jermaine to sign on the dotted line and return to him. But he's probably the best right tackle on the market right now. He's a really good pass protector. And in a free agent market that isn't overly robust. Right. And if anything happens here, guys, let me know, because I got my phone on silent. But because I just started vibrating. I'm like, oh, God, what just went down? With the number of the lack of top-tier talent available there, Jermaine's value just increases because teams have money to spend. So the last I heard was that there were 3 teams in addition to the Giants circling Jermaine Illuminor. The Giants want him back. The Giants are trying to get him back, but I think there is a number they're willing to go to and a number they're not willing to go to, and they're trying to find that happy middle ground. But I would think that now, look, the Giants are pretty confident they were getting Flott and Illuminor back. Right. Now that they lost Flott, I wonder if some of that cash to just, let's just make sure we get this one done.
He makes a lot of sense for the Kansas City Chiefs, too. Taylor's gone now. Mahomes is coming back off the knee injury. And obviously, when they can protect him, they're a much different team than when they can't protect him. They had Kenny Walker to be their starting running back, because Mahomes has actually led the Chiefs in rushing yards since 2018, I think it is.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Which is just a crazy stat, because you don't think of him that much as like a Lamar Jackson type or even a Danny Jones type, when he was younger with the New York Giants. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come back to the Giants. Let me do some Jets with you. Sure. I think the Jets have had a very competent day. I think the New York Jets are a better football team after the 5 or 6 moves they've made. Obviously, quarterback's still the biggest one, so let me start there. It makes no sense at all to me, nor do I want him back as a fan, for Geno Smith to rock the jet green again. So I've heard all the names that are out there. Carson Wentz, which I don't like either, but I understand it because of Frank Reich. Yeah. And I know whoever they get's not going to be a world stopper, but give us some insight as to where the Jets legitimately are as we sit here today at QB.
I think there were some people that were sweating in the building a little bit when it seemed like there was a chance the Cardinals might get back in the Malik Willis sweepstakes, because if he went to Arizona, that opens up the Dolphins to go to their contingency plan, and their contingency plan was believed to be Geno Smith. So the money wasn't totally right in Arizona, which is why the Dolphins were able to get that done, and now the Cardinals are going to pivot to trying to get Jimmy Garoppolo to leave being Matt Stafford's backup to be their starter. But I would think, Craig, at this point, based on everything I've heard, that the Geno Smith is close to atop the Jets list, and ideally they'd like to pair him with Carson Wentz to have that little veteran quarterback room, similar to what the Giants had with Jameis and Russell. Yeah, I know it's not exactly what you
because that worked out so well
but
for the Giants.
What's the alternative? Because
That's what I've been saying. There's like no alternatives.
Yeah, they're not trading for Jacoby. Mac Jones wants a second-round pick. The Eagles want a second-round pick for Tanner McKee, or the Niners want a second for Mac. The Eagles want a second for Tanner. I mean, the well's drying up quick. I mean, I like Kirk Cousins, but that's not happening at all. Brian Costello was the first one that reported that one. So, I of the options that are left, those are your best options. So, that's your best chance.
So let me play this out. Kyler Murray goes to Minnesota.
The only other one I was going to. He's going to Minnesota.
Everything I've heard is that's done.
Okay. Tua is going to Atlanta based on some of your reports earlier today. Malik Willis now has a 3-year contract. He's locked up in Miami, so that's off the table as well. Kirk Cousins, nowhere yet, and has apparently told people, you're not getting me for $1.2 million, which is what a lot of these other guys are going to go for who have big wood coming their way from teams that they're leaving now. And it seems like we're down to Carson Wentz, Geno Smith, or some other ham hock that can't really play football that well either.
The only other name I would throw in there is the Derek Carr out of retirement thing legit?
Coming out of retirement, from the people that I've talked to within the Jets building, I don't believe that's happening. Okay. Now, things could dramatically change. There was no contact between, from my understanding, the Saints received no calls with anybody interested in trading him. Look, if he's cut for some reason, then he's there to be had for like the veteran minimum contract, like Tua and Kyler and some of these guys, maybe. But from my understanding, when I looked into that from the Jets' perspective, it was almost been like, don't waste your time. Like this is not worth looking into. I've seen the clip from the podcast that everybody's talking about where it seems like I literally sent this text to somebody with the Jets, and I said this on our podcast. I was like, what am I doing here? Because I was like, hey, like anything to do here with Carr? And they're like, well, what are you talking about? I was like, well, David and Derek were doing a podcast, and Derek asked David who he thought Derek was going to play for, and then he kind of says Jets, but you can't really tell. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm doing this, but like, and then we said, like, hey, let's look the other way. Like, let's just don't. This is not at this point an avenue to dive down. From my understanding, look, you can tell they're trying to do the Kelsey brother thing, and I don't know how many people watch the podcast. And anytime you say Jets and possibility, I'm sure it drives the views up. That's what I was led to believe that is. We'll see if that changes or evolves here, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, I can tell them that they're not gonna. And that's one of the.
Do you want that, dude?
Do I want Derek Carr? I tell you what, I wanted Derek Carr when Robert Saleh had dinner lunch with him at Fiorino's in Summit, New Jersey, and he was debating where to go when he's kind of kicked out of Las Vegas, and then when he chose to go to New Orleans. I don't want him now. 3 years ago, I wanted him, sure, even though he's never won a playoff game and only been in one. I would rather take a flyer. Look, I know whoever I get, I don't have a legitimate quarterback, so to me, whatever veteran, competent quarterback costs me the least amount of money. And then I lean towards Big Mac's take, and even though he's a Giants fan, on the Jets, which is go ahead and draft Ty Simpson in the second round.
Yeah.
See if he's any good.
You mentioned like two veterans like the Giants. They also followed that up with a draft pick. So I'm curious if you think like Ty Simpson's obviously that next name. Could you see the Jets entering the fray with the quarterback in the draft?
Well, dude, it gives you that flexibility, dude. Yeah. Like that's the thing, is that it gives you the flexibility to do that because you have a quarterback you like in Geno, you have another quarterback that you like in Carson, who the offensive coordinator really, really likes, and then it gives you the flexibility where if you are in a position to go up and get a Ty Simpson or go up and get another quarterback that you like, whether that's on day one by trading back in, day two, or even on day three with like a Drew Allard type player, say he's there for you organically, or you just have to maneuver a little bit of future draft capital to go get him. You can do that if the opportunity presents itself, but you aren't forced into doing it. Like the Giants last year, if the Jackson Dart thing didn't happen, they were totally content going into next season with Russell and Jameis. Like they were fine with that.
Yeah.
And then when they had the opportunity to trade, what was it, just a 3 to go get him? Then they did it, and the rest is history. So I think you could absolutely see the Jets do that if the opportunity is there. Now, how much they love Simpson, I don't know. That's something we're going to figure out here in a couple of weeks when they get past free agency and truly into putting together their big board. But it's on the table, absolutely.
Talking to Connor Hughes, also with SNY, covers the Jets and the Giants and the NFL across the country. There's a lot of smoke out there. I think that's all it is. We've discussed it a million times on the show about the New York Giants drafting a running back, acquiring a running back. Obviously, Kenneth Walker goes to Kansas City, so he's off the table. And then there's the thought that based on some of the moves they made today, Big Mac would like to see them maybe draft a wide receiver with that 5th overall pick. I know we're a month away. I know teams are very good at trying to distract us and put out smoke screens. Do you see a world in which the New York Giants are taking a skilled position at 5th overall in the draft or no?
You mentioned wide receiver. I'm about to send this one out once I'm done with you guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the Giants are going to get themselves involved in this situation. I know the Jets weren't in Michael Pittman. I know they were at the deadline with this specific person, and I could see the Giants potentially getting available because they made calls on him as well. Is Brian Thomas of the Jaguars is available. He is somebody that the Jaguars are entertaining offers to, and depending on who you talk to around the league, believe that ultimately he's going to get moved.
Well, let me stop you there for a second. Last year, the rub on him was totally disinterested to maybe the last month. Did not gel with Travis Hunter, being the two-way player. I know there's a lot of talk now there that Travis Hunter is going to be maybe exclusively a defensive back for them and not play any offense based on the injury last year. That, to me, would open up a lot more opportunities for him to catch the ball. But you're saying that he's on the move maybe.
He and Liam don't see eye to eye. I look, at the deadline last year, I know the Jets called on him, and I know the Giants called on him. And the Jets were trying to get something done there. Potentially with moving one of their own players to try to get him in their building. The Jaguars are basically like, we're not moving him. Now I think that stance has softened some, and maybe it's the addition of Jacoby Myers has changed their opinion on it or whatever. But it is something, Craig, and I feel the same way about the Eagles taking calls on Jalen Carter, is that these are two players, specifically with Thomas. He's a year removed from 1,300 yards as a rookie, unbelievable rookie season with Mac Jones. Jalen Carter, one of the best interior defensive linemen across the NFL. If they're trading him, that tells me that something's going on behind the scenes that they just didn't let out. There's something going on there. But that would be something I would keep an eye on.
I think they appointed him head of their carpool program, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. That's something I'd keep an eye on. But as far as drafting, look, the Giants were in on Kenneth Walker, just not at that number. They were never going to $15 million. I mean, they were involved. They had extensive conversations with his representatives at the NFL Combine. They were very, very interested in finding a way to get him to New York. As Jordan Raanan of ESPN reported, they made a formal offer. It just wasn't the same zip code of $15 million.
So it's one of those things like, hey, we like the player. If we could get him at a ridiculously low number.
12, 13. I think 12, 13 they would have done. Something along those lines. They're just not doing 15. That's crazy. That's crazy money for a back. He's a good player. I don't think he's great. You know what I mean? So I think that's something they were involved in. Does that bring in the possibility of Jeremiah Love at 5? Maybe. I think Sonny Styles is more likely there.
Yeah, I think Giant fans would nothing against Jeremiah Love, who, if you have not seen the documentary on him, it's brilliant. And he's a great kid. I mean, everything you want in somebody to represent your franchise, and a hell of a good football player as well. But he's just a great kid based on the documentary I saw of him a few months back. I think Giant fans would be apoplectic if they chose a running back with the top 5 pick, considering Saquon at number 2 and how that didn't pan out. I'd be shocked if they go running back at 5.
Well, I will say this, Craig, is that Styles is that linebacker in the middle. The Giants just signed Tremaine Edmonds. Mm-hmm. If that was Sonny Styles they were thinking at 5, and then instead now they got Edmonds, and now that opens them up for something different. Maybe they trade back and say they get him at 7 or 8, or they trade back a little bit and somebody else comes up and they're able to get him there. I don't know. I mean, we're in the Wild Wild West here because John Harbaugh, this is his first year with the team. This is the first year he's drafting this high. You can go and look at his history of drafting non-premium positions in the first round, but he was drafting them all 14, 15, 16. He wasn't drafting these guys top 10 because the Ravens never picked top 10. So I don't totally know what they're going to do. I wouldn't necessarily rule it out, especially if they infuse the interior of their offensive line the way that I expect them to here over the coming days or so, with maybe an Elijah Vera Tucker or a Wyatt Teller or any of these other interior offensive linemen they're talking to, where if you build that wall in front of Jackson Dart and you realize that maybe they do go Carnell Tate at 5, but say you realize, all right, there's no good receivers in free agency. We don't really like the guys in the draft, but next year there's going to be a ton. Why don't we just build the ugliest, nastiest offensive line, put a freaking good running back in the backfield with Cam Scadaboo, and then let's just beat the heck out of all these defenses that go small, and we just run it down their throat. Maybe they do go that route. Should they? I tend to disagree. I don't like running backs top 5, top 10, but it's on the table. It's unfortunately right now it's guessing because it's free agency can change a lot, as we've seen, and it can sort of change where this is going to go, but I'll come back on with you guys in 3 weeks once we start talking some draft with sources, and I'll have a better idea.
Yeah.
You mentioned no real wide receivers. I was curious about that with the Giants as well. They obviously signed Likely. Could you see him as kind of like, and the only thing with that is like I didn't necessarily view tight end. Obviously, Likely's a great player and an upgrade over Theo Johnson, but Theo Johnson has shown some flashes. Do you think you could see Isaiah Likely kind of fill a role as almost kind of in the slot a little bit for Wan'Dale Robinson, who's now gone? Like, is he that kind of player? You could see him kind of all over the field and maybe be someone, if they can improve the wide receiver position, to kind of play a little bit of slot and different things?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is you got to get creative sometimes. When there's not those receivers out there, and this might cause you to have a little PTSD with what I'm about to say, but it reminds me a little bit of Joe Shane's second year where the Giants also needed receivers. There was no real means to get a receiver, so they traded for Darren Waller. It was like, well, this guy's a pass catcher, and we're going to throw him into our offense, and he's going to be a 1,200-yard guy, and we're going to run an offense through him or a passing game through him. It obviously did not work in any way, shape, or form with him because, like he always seemed to do, he got hurt. But I think this is another means to do it. Now, likely he's never had more than 400 yards or so in a season, but you've seen when he had to step in and start in place of Mark Andrews, dude, he had success. What was that game? Was it against the Chiefs, right? Where he had over 100 yards and was a toe away from winning the game on a touchdown? There's legitimate ability there. He's a guy who can get down the seam. He's fast. He's athletic. He's not necessarily the best blocker, but he's a weapon in the pass game. And now you like the idea of building it around him. And you got Neighbors. You obviously need to find a new slot because Wan'Dale's gone. You have Slate, and you're hoping he's going to have a bounce back. And likely can be another dude who's going to steal some targets and make some plays for you on offense.
Well, last couple of things for Connor Hughes before we let him go for the day. Was Tua to the Jets ever a real consideration?
Discussed. It was discussed. I don't think it was ever happening, though. I don't think that was one that Tua particularly wanted, but it was something they discussed internally.
At least I dodged that one, Big Mac. Are we talking about all these bad quarterbacks the Jets might be bringing in? We at least dodged the Tua one.
Well,
Geno's a better option than Tua. I think Geno's a better option.
So we were talking about it because there was that report that possibly teams would be asking to take back a 1 to take the money off the hands of Miami. I don't know if that was somewhat interesting. If you get next year's Miami, I know they got Willis now. You weren't sure, if they were tanking, you could get a top 5 pick next year and take on the money of Tua. That kind of made sense to me a little bit, but I don't think, obviously they released him, so I don't think that's happened. The other question I wanted to ask you though, Breece Hall, who has been common to social media when frustrated, is out there tweeting again after he's tagged and the Jets are spending some money. What do you think of that dynamic? Do you think they should try and are they working on the contract right now with their promises made in July? And is he going to be happy if he heads into the season without a contract?
They are, at the moment, like this very moment, no, they are not working on any contract extension with Breece Hall.
Okay.
That's because they're getting through the free agency and draft. Once they get through free agency, once they get through the draft, Darren Muji, the Jets general manager, Nicole Lynn, who represents and one of the best agents in the game at the moment, who represents Breece Hall among many, many others, they're going to get together and try to iron something out. At one point, the Jets felt like they were really, really close to getting a deal done. I think that Kenneth Walker's contract and Nicole and Breece saying, hey, we're going to bank on ourselves here and not just accept the offer that you're putting forth the table right now, it paid off because you talk to most people around the NFL, and while the numbers don't necessarily indicate it, but Kenneth played on a significantly better team, Breece Hall, by almost every measure, is considered a better running back than Kenneth Walker. Yeah. And in Breece's perspective, he thinks he should be paid more than Kenneth Walker. And I know Nicole thinks that. And when they were at the NFL Combine and able to talk and discuss with other teams, they found out, hey, there's a lot of people that are willing to give us a lot of money. Like, if we're a free agent, we're going to get significant contracts, which is why the Jets pivoted off of the transition tag when they weren't able to reach a long-term extension to the non-exclusive franchise tag, where now no one's going to sign Breece Hall because they'd have to give up 2 first-round picks.
Right.
So we're going to see if they're able to come through.
Connor, I would push back on that only for one reason. You got a lot of GMs that are out there. They're all playing each other, right? Smoke screens galore. I'm playing chess. You're playing checkers, that kind of nonsense, right? So every one of those people that whispered into her ear or to Breece's ear about, I'd give you this amount of money, I'd pay you that much money, the Jets don't appreciate you, blah, 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 blah. They all did that knowing full well that the Jets were going to tag them.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So if you
but the Jets could have called their bluff, Craig.
Yeah.
Like, the Jets could have called their bluff. And I think when they realized...
And let them go for nothing?
No. So the thing about the transition tag is, like, the difference between transition tag and franchise tag is transition tag is a lower figure, 11-something million. Like the non-exclusive franchise, they can still negotiate with other teams.
Right.
But if they agree to a long-term contract, so say Nicole and Breece get a $14.5, $15 million deal similar to what Kenneth Walker just got, or escalators up to $15 million, the Jets have the opportunity to match or let him walk. If they let him walk, they get nothing. With the non-exclusive franchise tag, same thing, they can negotiate with other teams. But if they come to an agreement and they leave, they get 2 first-round picks in return. So it's their way of saying, we'll give you 14.
Right.
So I think they could have called their bluff, but they, especially now seeing what Kenneth got, there's opportunities out there where teams are going to want to pay people, and they're going to want to pay running backs.
Yeah, but I think that's also part of his frustration is that you have other GMs blowing smoke up his ass saying, oh, I'd give you 16. I'd give you a 3-year deal for 40 with 28 guaranteed, or, I'm making up numbers, obviously, arbitrarily.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And then, of course, and this is not the first time we've seen it. It will not be the last, where there's a disgruntled player under the tag, and the team says, we'll get to you in July, and we'll try to work something out. And then 2 days later, they spend $80 million on 7 other free agents, and you're sitting there going, hey, I've given you my blood, sweat, and tears, and you're spending all this money on guys that have never played for the franchise, and now I'm pissed off. Like, he's not the first guy to go through this. He will not be the last guy to go through it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think cooler heads will prevail, and they'll figure something out, because the Jets and ownership really like Breece Hall. And Breece's thing is he just wants to get paid. This isn't like he hates the Jets.
He's a running back.
Wants to be paid.
He knows.
And they thought they were pretty close. Like Darren thought he was pretty close with Nicole. Clearly they weren't, and that's why he was tagged. But they still have time to figure this out. And I don't want to put like my foot in my mouth and say like, oh, then he plays on the tag. If they were close enough, I would be surprised if some 3-year deal isn't reached before the start of the season, because it makes sense for Breece and it makes more sense for the Jets because it gives them the flexibility to move money around if they need to.
And then last thing, Wanda Robinson gets about $19 million a year, and a good amount of it guaranteed to go to Tennessee. And we were talking about guys like Pickens now, who's been tagged by the Dallas Cowboys, and other top-flight wide receivers. The market for wide receivers is crazy, no?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you saw that with, but that's the thing is he was the best option available. Like the thing about Pierce is that is he a $27 million a year receiver? Probably not. But when you're the top option available, that's how you get paid. And there really isn't a number 2 that's all particularly good, which is why I think you're going to see teams start to pivot now, and that value potentially to go get Brian Thomas, that's going to be a little bit better. I
think the best job in football is just to be a backup quarterback who only plays a couple games a year. Mm-hmm. I saw Marcus Mariota got another $7 million to play football. Anyhow, Connor, great job as always. Appreciate you. And word on the street is that, and I think it's nonsense, is that you're down to an 11 handicap. Is that right?
No, Craig, we are up. We're up to an 11, and I think it's still climbing. I've got my 2.5-year-old is running rampant around the house, and we got another one due in 2 months. So my handicap's going the wrong way, my friend.
I'm just telling you what some of the other guys were telling me.
I don't know about that. Well, we'll see you at Big Daddy's thing. You'll be doing Big Daddy's thing again, right? Will I see you there?
Yeah, I suppose I will.
Yeah, I'll catch up with you. We'll try to get in the same group this time.
Yeah, no shot they'll ever do that, but I'd look forward to it for sure. So, all right, kid, be good. Talk to you soon.
I'll see you, man. Thank you.
Connor Hughes, SNY, obviously does a great job covering not just the Jets, Giants, and the NFL.